My name is Dominic Thomas. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Nepal in 1998 through 2000, working in a special education program at that time, which is not special ed, but rather expanding the national education system by 2 years. I lived in the Hartok Bazaar, which is in the Kasauli, as they say there, village, which is next door to Bhairabstan, which is near Tansen in Palpa district, Lumbini region. And Lumbini is, of course, the birthplace of Buddha. So this is the area where I lived. There are so many stories to tell, I can barely think what to say, but one of the ones that came to mind today, and I'm not sure why, was the story of the Silangi tree. In my village there was this one tree. The first year I was there it bloomed, and it was the last time it ever bloomed. It was the last of these trees on the earth. And when this thing bloomed, the smell of the tree was so strong you could smell it for a mile away. Beautiful smell. And I didn't know what was happening at that time when I first smelled it from my house. And then I went and asked around, and they said, well, it's the Silangi tree. Oh, spell it. I mean, it's in Devanagari, so S-I-L-A-N-G-I maybe. Silangi tree. So this tree, unfortunately, was on the ridge between Bhairabstan and Hartok Bazaar in Kasauli. And in order to put the road in, they cut half of the roots of the tree. The World Wildlife Federation was trying to preserve it, and they had sent researchers and such, and they said they couldn't find another one of these trees. And it's very difficult to propagate. And it was dying due to the loss of roots. Very old tree too. This tree had been planted by Murimukunda Sen, who is the ancient king of the kingdom of Shangri-La, Nepal, whatever you would like to call it, and had lived on there are 3 hills there. In Bhairabstan has a famous temple, which is the religious hill. And then there's the hill where the Silangi tree was, which is where the palace was. And then there's the hill I lived on, which is where the army was. So there were these 3 hills next to each other. And the Silangi tree was this tree at the palace. And it was the last of them. And the next year it didn't bloom. It didn't put out any flowers, which was very unusual. And as far as I know, it didn't bloom any there. And I wondered today, is it still there? Maybe. I thought I would take care of my sister when she came to visit. And in particular, I wanted her to have a good experience. So I got us tickets on the best bus from Kathmandu to my village. Well, it doesn't go to my village. It went to 8 kilometers away from the village. We'd have to walk the remaining part or hitchhike on a truck or something. But that's fine. You know, the first 190 kilometers, which take 9 hours, were the ones I was worried about because the road's pretty dangerous and it's usually uncomfortable, this kind of thing. So I got the best express bus tickets I could get. I got the best tickets on that bus. She flies in, we get to the bus park, we get to the bus, I've hyped it up to her, we get on the bus. Those seats don't exist on this bus. They just don't exist. There's a gap, and they're not there. So now what? So fortunately, the way the culture is, because she's a foreigner and so obvious, they look at her and they say, wow, we'll let her sit in the front. So she gets to sit on a chair about twice as large as this chair I'm sitting on, which is just my width, with 3 other people. And I am sitting on the chock block, the little block they use to keep the bus from moving when it's on a hill, behind the driver's seat, which is about a 7-inch wide gap. It's going to be 9 hours. And honest to God, this was the worst bus ride I'd ever seen. What was really exciting is there was more throwing up going on this bus than there had been on any bus I had been on up to that point. Fortunately, Val didn't get hit. But every window, every 30 minutes, somebody was just laying it out in our proximity. And it wasn't just there, it was all the way down the bus, because when we would stop and you look at the side of the bus, it was just plastered. And then the aisle down the middle, it's just rolling back and forth the whole bus ride. So anyway, the good news is, you know, in teaching, we learned that it's good to put a hard test right up front because it conditions the students, and then after that it's easier. Well, that's how this worked. So after that, later on in the visit, she was just there for a week and a half. I had to be gone, maybe 2 weeks, I don't know. I had to be gone for a couple days out of town to do something. I forget what. I was gone, and my house, Dee Dee, the older sister, was taking care of Val, which was kind of scary because no one spoke English in the area, but it worked out fine. What's kind of interesting is while Val was there, I mean, things were happening. One day she hears a goat bleeding right next to the room, and then one of the little Baini's younger daughter comes out and says, you know, Dee Dee, older sister, come here, come here. Val goes out on the porch. There's a woman sitting on her side. The woman had just given birth. So Val gets to see this brand new 5-minute-old newborn, and only the women of the house, of course, are allowed in that space. It was very amazing. I mean, to this day, this was a very meaningful trip for her. Ah, other stories. You know, the story that came to mind is a very tough story as far as the Peace Corps goes. But it should be said. I think it should. Peace Corps is not all rosy. There's a reason the Peace Corps is the toughest job you'll ever love. Not too long ago, I was in the Peace Corps in a program with a retired airborne ranger from Vietnam. And we were on Facebook, we're still connected, so we talked to each other. And he had, around Memorial Day or Veterans Day or something, he had made some post. And we're good friends. We had done a number of things together, but some of the people who know him don't know me, and so there's potential for misunderstanding. He had posted something about, thank you for your sacrifice, and I had posted back, agreement with the statement, but also we should expand our thanks to include returned Peace Corps volunteers. And a couple of people found that offensive. They don't equate service through the Peace Corps as equivalent to the sacrifice of military service. Now that's interesting. Now let's see if it's true, because I work with the CDC and a number of people involved in the various statistics around morbidity and mortality. I asked and I searched to see what, and I picked up the reports on the military. What's the death rate for Peace Corps volunteers as compared to active duty service members? Peace Corps looks like it's in 1 to 750 range. Military is 1 in 1,000. Your chance of death, your sacrifice, in a sense, is greater in the Peace Corps. Now, me personally, this comes home to rest, and let me make a second statement of why this story is difficult, and the Peace Corps might not want to promote it. People die in the Peace Corps, and they don't just die because of the externals, they die because of the internals. There was a point at which I was very ill. In fact, my kidneys shut down. And there's no dialysis in that country at the time. I was a very healthy young man, and so the chance of living was good if I had treatment. I needed to go to Kathmandu. I already told you that's a 9-hour bus ride. One of the Peace Corps staff was in town, and the policy says they should yield their Jeep to me, medical emergency. The other Peace Corps volunteers in the area had come together. One of them had fed me drops in this corner of my mouth all night because I was dehydrated and I had gotten paralyzed. They called this guy, and he didn't like me. Well, he didn't yield his Jeep to me. That could have been my death. I could have been part of that statistic. Now, subsequent to all of this, I will say he was fired and he's gone now, but still, I ended up, 2 Nepali teacher colleagues of mine, friends, I couldn't control my bile. I mean, I was, they held me and wiped me and fed me on that 9-hour bus ride and carried me into the Peace Corps medical facility where they put me on an IV and kept me, you know, for some time. I mean, it was quite an experience. So, you know, the Peace Corps is the toughest job you'll ever love for various reasons, and it is a true service. I would love to see it honored in that light in this country, and with the kinds of health care and benefits that the military receive.
Wow, very inspiring story. That's part of what this is about, is honoring it, is how I see it. It's very good. Mm-hmm. And you're right, it has to be said. Yeah.
But it's a tough story. Yeah. Several of the angles of this are tough for culture, for Peace Corps, for any number of individuals out there who are trying to promote the Peace Corps even. This is a tough story.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's not unique.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly it's not unique.